Hello all heroes and welcome back to Invincible Guarding the Globe, and today the time has come to do a new and improved Invincible Guarding the Globe tier list. Now, it's been a long time since the last tier list, and we have had not only no shortage of new characters, but also no shortage of new players. So I figure what we're going to do is we're going to do this from scratch. Do it from the ground up, because my opinion has definitely changed on some heroes, sometimes for the better, sometimes for the worse. So we're going to get right into it. If you do enjoy this video and the other content I make, if you could like the video and then subscribe to the channel, that would be most helpful, because we have got many more videos in the pipeline. Now, this is opinion based, obviously. It's kind of the nature of tier lists. And how I judge characters is going to vary. Why do I have a Kia ad? Go away. This site is full of ads, which is delightful, but it's also pretty much the only game in town that I know of, so whatever. Yeah, we're going to be factoring in upgrades and such if I do feel like it is consequential to the character. We're pretty much going to assume that everybody is running at their best, more or less. Although working great at a low floor, or excuse me, having a higher floor, like someone like Robot, will factor in to a degree. Now then, first on the list here we have is Agent Spider. Agent Spider is an attacker who throws around quite a lot of debuffs and even uses his main ability like right at the beginning of the fight. He is quite effective, not gonna lie. The only thing that holds him back is the fact that he's not terribly available these days, aside from the occasional events. So we're going to put him in an A. We're going to put him, I think we're going to consider him high A, but we're definitely going to put him in the A tier. Great unit. Definitely depends a little bit on what team you put him in. He definitely needs last line defense characters for the most part. But I feel pretty safe putting him in the A tier. Now, Alan. I don't remember where I put Alan last time. I think I put him in S, and unfortunately I'm going to have to demote him a little bit, because compared to some other tanks, Alan does not hold up as well in things like Arena. He still does good, don't get me wrong. He still does great work, and he's a fantastic tank. But he has some very stiff competition. We're going to put him above Agent Spider, below Agent Spider. We'll put him above. I mean, Alan is just such a good defender. Now, Angstrom Levy. Yeah, I think that's how to pronounce his name. Angstrom Levy. He is troublesome to rank because on his own, not so good. With Maulers, dramatically better. However, you're not going to see a Mauler team become meta. I mean, they do punch way above their weight for what they are, but I don't think the day will ever come where you see a Mauler team really crush the meta. They do okay, and sometimes that's good enough, but Angstrom is so dependent on running with Maulers, it's not even funny. So with that in mind, we're going to put him in B tier. Now, next is Anissa, one of the pride and joys of my account. This is gonna hurt me, because the simp in me wants to put her in S so dang bad. Like, I want her in S so bad, and in the right circumstances, she is S tier. But to really fully utilize her kit, it requires a lot of foresight. First of all, she absolutely positively has to be fighting humans. Otherwise, her passive does nothing. If she's not fighting humans, then she's not able to throw around that defense shred. If she is fighting humans, then she treats them like a piece of paper. But without that extremely noteworthy caveat, that ability is basically useless. Also, the entire second half of her kit is completely based around push characters. Characters like Doc Seismic, Agent Spider, Lucan. Without that, the second half of her kit effectively doesn't exist, which means that there is an unfortunate scenario where her kit, three-quarters of her kit doesn't work. Now, when it does work, it's fantastic, and that does save her quite a bit, but for that reason, I have to put her in A tier. She works great in my arena team, but I'll even be the first to admit that I do not use her properly. So, as much as I would love to put her in S tier, there's just too many scenarios where she literally can lose as much as 75% of her kit, and that's not ideal. Next is Aquarius. Now, Aquarius has a very odd use case when it comes to GDA ops. He is a Guardians of the Globe character, so he works very well with the Reaniman arm. So we are going to respect this truth, and we're going to put him in B, because that is his only use case. To be fair, let's not deny that fact. However, it is a use case that he is very good at, and can be a very cheap way to allow players to maximize their GDA rewards, especially in events, and that does count for something. Now Adam Eve is S tier, no doubt. She is a fantastic support, with the slight caveat that you do absolutely positively have to crank up her skills. I've got 3 out of 4 of her skills all the way up to 10, and as a result, she does some disgusting damage. But admittedly, her floor is a bit lower. Her ceiling is through the roof, but her floor makes her performance suffer a little bit until you do get her upgraded. Now, she is 150% worth upgrading. It just takes a little bit of time, but I feel like that is good enough to justify an S tier slot. Bonus points for the fact that you see either her or Robot in like every arena team. So that tells you all you need to know right there. Battle Beast. We're gonna give Battle Beast a low A under Agent Spider, I think. I think Battle Beast, he does great damage right up until he doesn't. Because he will croak pretty quick on you, but he will take the enemy down with him. So it's a bit of a hard thing to say which is which, what actually, whether that makes him better or worse. But what he does do very well, which is do damage in a hurry. So we're gonna put him in the A category. Black Samson, fodder character, not a whole lot of use. We'll put him in C. Bulletproof. Bulletproof has a few use cases, because there are more ways nowadays to supplement the crit rate he needs to get his invulnerability effects going, because he's very much focused on getting as many crits as humanly possible. And that does give him some use cases. Not enough to match the A tier categories, but we'll put him higher than Angstrom, because at least he can stand on his own. We'll put him in B, but at the very least, what he does, he can do well if you build him properly. Next we have the man himself, Cecil. Now, Cecil's interesting, and I'm actually gonna take the time to pull up his abilities in game to even remind myself, because he's different for a support. His main ability hits like a truck and can remove some buffs. His passive, here's the thing. His passive is really good, but only against Guardians of the Globe, because he's trying to basically keep them under his thumb, more or less. So he can tank Guardians of the Globe's attack. But also, if we're really thinking about it, Who does that entail? That entails a noteworthy number of rare units, specifically Rexplode and Duplicate, which I mean are good to debuff, but I mean you're not going to see them in Arena probably. Then there's Shrinking Ray, who you don't see a lot. And then the Immortal, who's more so focused on defense as opposed to attack. So unfortunately, that doesn't see a whole lot of practical use. His teleport's okay. And the fact that he can steal buffs is okay. He can do that a couple times per battle. And it admittedly does get more uses when you do get it leveled up, and he gets to heal himself, but that's kind of meh. And then what makes him unique is the fact that he can summon Reanimate whenever somebody dies. Unfortunately, the ability to summon Reanimate is more of a novelty than an actual use, because at the end of the day, they are still just Reanimate. And they crumble pretty quick. They're very annoying if you're fighting a Cecil in Cecil's Nightmares, but unfortunately that does not actually translate to him being useful. So we're going to put him at a low B, just because his main ability, the hammer, does have ridiculously high scaling. In my mind, that's kind of the only thing that saves him, if I'm being totally honest. And even then, it's barely. Next. Damien Darkblood, fodder. Darkwing, fodder. Darkwing 2. I don't like Darkwing 2. Because his main ability effectively removes a character from the battle, but it removes himself too, because he basically drags him into his little Shadowverse thing, which is all fine and dandy, but it also removes him from the fight. Anissa, when she deletes somebody from the battle for a couple seconds, she's still in the fight. Darkwing 2 removes himself from said fight, which is not ideal. He does have the ability where Malefactor enemy skills cooldowns are 20% slower. That's okay, because to be fair, especially post-Powerplex, there are a lot of Malefactor characters with some pretty quick cooldowns. That counts for something, but not a whole lot. He can teleport to enemies and deal some damage, which is all fine and dandy. And then whenever he emerges from his Shadowverse thing, he heals for a bit, and when you power it up, he gets a shield. Which is really weird, considering that he is... It's like he's a support, but he's a very selfish support. And I don't get it. I truly do not get it. The only thing that he's really got cooking for him is that there are a lot of very powerful Malefactors. I actually did just look, and Powerplex does not actually have the Malefactor tag. Let me check that real quick. So who counts as Malefactors? Okay. Seismic, Angstrom, the Maulers. Okay. There are a few good characters that are considered Malefactors, but not enough to make him usable. So I think I'm actually feel a little bad doing it, but I think I'm gonna put him in C, because I just don't like a single thing about him. I just truly do not. On the flip side of that coin, we've got the man himself, Doc Seismic. He may seem like a goofy old dude who gives himself concussions and really hates monuments, but homeboy packs a punch. We had lore accurate Seismic in the game before we got lore accurate Seismic in season 3. Turns out this game was cooking something when they made him so strong. He's got suns, wow. He's got the power of the sun, basically. He's got stuns, he's got pushes, he can defend himself. He just hits like a truck. He struggles a little bit against flyers, but that's not so much a downside as much as it is the only thing keeping him from being too busted for the game. So we're going to put him in S tier above Adam Eve. Obviously. I mean, come on. Next we have Duplicate. Now, I love my Duplicate, but at the end of the day, she is still just a fodder character. I'll put her above Darkwing 2. But at the end of the day, there are few practical reasons to build her. I love her. I love her just because I like having my Omnipotent plus Duplicate, and I'm building up a second Duplicate because I accidentally made her epic, and, you know, work with what you got. But, yeah. That's just kind of the reality of it. Now, Flaxan Leader. He does one thing, but it is one of the most important things in the entire game, which is crank up the rewards you receive from GDA Ops. I was recently informed that that most likely does not work on GDA events, which is news to me, but as long as he's fighting humans, he can increase your rewards from GDA Ops, and most of them do have humans. The most important ones for sure that give you XP, definitely. Flaxan Leader is like a mandatory build. And in light of that, I'm going to give him a... This feels heretical to say, because he only does that one thing. But man, this game revolves around GDA Ops, and Flaxan Leader is the only one who does that, you know? He's the only one who can increase the rewards you get from GDA Ops. For that reason, he is a must build. Just for that reason, you'll never use him in any kind of practical setting. But man, when you gotta build a character, you put him in A, and that's just that. Now, next we have Green Ghost. Green Ghost has fallen out of favor a bit. What she does really well, but she lags behind other supports. Now, she can protect allies with her invisibility effects, which does count for something. So for that reason, I'm going to put her at the top of B. And she does do some debuffs, which are nice and all that jazz, but we're going to put her at B and just kind of leave her comfortably there. Now, next we have the man himself, the poster child of the show, Invincible. I mean, he's been meta since day one, and that has not changed one bit. He is S tier, no doubt. Now, whether he's higher than Seismic? Ooh. Or even higher than Adam Eve, because I even hesitate to put him higher than Adam Eve, because see, Invincible is a great fighter on the team. Adam Eve can save the team. And then Seismic can kill the enemy team, like, single-handedly, just about. I'm going to put him under Adam Eve. I don't know if that's considered a hot take or not. Just know that you pretty much want them both on the team together. So, yeah, don't take that as necessarily me saying he's worse than Adam Eve. I mean, S tier is still S tier. He is fantastic. Isotope, fodder. Kursk, fodder. Lucan. I was really optimistic about Lucan originally. I am not anymore. Lucan has no purpose. The only time he is any kind of usable is if you put him in a strictly Viltrumite team, because he admittedly does have some push effects that synergize with Anissa, and he has abilities that directly synergize with Thula. But at the end of the day, even with that, just use any other defender, or even like another support. I mean, even factoring in that Viltrumite synergy, there's just better characters. So, yeah, I can't believe I'm having to say this, but I'm gonna put him in C. Negative points for the fact that he's only in the arena team in a hotly contested faction. Like, he is a stain on what is quite possibly the best faction in the game, From Worlds Beyond. There are so many From Worlds Beyond characters, it's not even funny. And so many of them are good. And then you've got Lucan, who is just a stain on the faction. So I gotta put him in C. I hate to do it, but my man's gotta go in C. Fodder, Magma Dude, I forget his name. Although he did admittedly get some shadow character growth in the show. I mean, points for that, but unfortunately it doesn't make you any more useful. Martian Man, bleh. The Maulers, and we're going to go ahead and just rank them both at the same time, because effectively you do have to use them at the same time. I mean, they're just like Angstrom. When they're together, they're A. They're A tier with Angstrom. But we're not ranking teams. We're ranking characters. And individually, they are incomplete. That is by design, but they are still incomplete. However, in honor of the fact that they do work so well with Angstrom, I'm going to stick them in there with Angstrom. We'll put the melee Mauler just under Angstrom, and we'll put the ranged Mauler just over Angstrom, because admittedly ranged Mauler's better of the pair. Maybe he's the original. Maybe he's not the clone. Maybe it's the melee one who's the clone. Who knows? Next, we have Monster Girl. Now, Monster Girl has no shortage of competition competition nowadays. At the beginning of the game, she was undisputed. Post Cecil's Nightmare and post Arena, she loses out to some other defenders. That said, she is still one of the best. So I'm going to put her in the top of A for now. I don't know if anything's going to beat her out on that one, but for now we're going to put her in the top of A and leave it at that. Next we have Multipole. Now, due to the fact that he is a new character, even being a rare, we are going to give him an honest shake. I just realized I don't actually have a copy of him in my account. I must have foddered him, but that's okay. He is still a rare character with only 3 abilities, which is going to shut him down a bit. But his main ability is he creates copies with stats and just does some damage. Every time a malefactor ally dies, he gets some lifesteal, which is kind of meh. The only thing that really gives him any stock is that his backup copy ability does give him a death save or 2, depending on how much you have it powered up. That's the only thing that saves him. So we're going to put him in the top of C with his sister, ironically. I mean, unfortunately, at the end of the day, he is still just a rare character, even if he is a newer one. Now, Oliver, aka Kid Omni-Man. He's an interesting one because he really benefits from the factions that he's a part of. Because he is a part of the Viltrumite faction, and he is a part of the Last Line of Defense faction. That, admittedly, gives him a teeny tiny bit of value by association. Now, if we're talking about his own stats, his first ability is actually pretty decent. It's a guaranteed crit, has some decent stats, and goes specifically for the enemy with the lowest defensive stat. That means he's guaranteed to probably hit the highest attacker, and might even do some decent damage. So that is worth mentioning. His second ability, whenever he's fighting with last line of defense allies, he increases the team's healing by 5%. Now, that is okay. It basically means he has to run with Adam Eve. Or if he's running with someone like Invincible, you need to have a healer on the team as well to make that work, like Robot or somebody. It's really specific. And then his third ability, after every crit, he increases his crit damage, which is all fine and dandy. Like I said, he's more so benefiting from the fact that he is a part of a good faction, but he doesn't really contribute anything to the faction. With that said, we'll put him in low B. As rare characters go, he's not the worst to build, and might even be useful in some scenarios. Or if you want to slap him in the team with Thula and just have him die and crank her up, then you can do that. But we'll talk about Thula in a little bit here. Next, we have Omni-Man, the OG pure DPS character. He is very good. And you do see him in Arena a fair number of times. He just does high damage. He can give you some Life Leech against humans. And all of his abilities just do straight up damage, including his Gut Punch, which with some certain HP thresholds can be an insta-kill on a good day. For that reason, we're going to give him top of A over Monster Girl. He is a really good build, but he does have some nasty competition with Adam Eve and Invincible up there, so there's that. Next we have the newest character, Powerplex. Now, not unlike Kid Omni-Man, Powerplex really benefits from the factions that he's a part of, namely Technologists. Unlike Kid Omni-Man, he actually does bring his own stuff to the table here. First of all, in addition to his main ability just creating a nice little field of damage, he can actually reflect damage back to other people. There are not a lot of characters that can do that. The only one that specifically comes to mind is Adam Eve when she's paired with a team member. He can just do it himself. He gets beat up, and then he just sends that damage back out at the enemy, which can actually work out pretty well. His third ability, for every bit of HP loss, he gets some damage and I believe some defense towards the later part of when you're getting that skill upgraded. And his fourth ability, once again, he just absorbs damage and then unleashes that on his enemies. That's pretty good. That is pretty dang good, actually. But it's his passive ability that really puts him on the map for me. If there is a technologist on the team, they receive 15% energy attack boost and a 6% cooldown reduction. Now that's where things get interesting, because there are a lot of good technologists in this game, including, but not limited to, Robot and Doc Seismic. You'll notice up there, Doc Seismic is an S tier. Any character that can crank up Seismic gets a gold star in my book. Also, he can crank up the Maulers, which, like I said, I know I just dunked on the Maulers a little bit, but I did mention that, if you put Angstrom in a team with the Maulers, that team is A tier. A team of Angstrom, the 2 Maulers, Powerplex, and Seismic, all that energy reduction, that power increase, especially with Seismic, because Seismic already does amazing damage on a normal day. That ability alone really puts Powerplex on the map for me. Now that said, I haven't used him in a whole lot of practical scenarios, so there's only so much I can say from my own experience. I can only go off of what I'm seeing from his abilities, and his abilities look pretty dang good. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to put him in A tier, above Battle Beast, but under Agent Spider. And I mean that one as a compliment, because he's in league with some pretty beefy heavy hitters, and I really feel like he earns his spot in A tier just for that technologist boost, because cooldown reduction and energy attack boosts, yeah, he can make some people hurt. Next, Red Rush. This man has had a renaissance in the arena, especially once you get up to higher tiers. I fear Red Rush, and that's enough for me to justify putting him in S tier. He's got a very healthy number of debuffs. He's hard as crap to actually pin down and hit. And man, he's a destructive son of a gun. He really tears me up on a good day. So we're going to put him in S tier. Next we have Rexplode. On a good day, Rexplode can actually do a surprising amount of damage. It does require it to be a good day, though. And of course, being a rare character, he is still going to have the downgrade of only 3 skills. There's no getting around that. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to actually put him in B, under Cecil, but over Kid Omni-Man, because what he does really well. And on a good day, he can do some good damage. And I'll leave it at that. Next, we have Robot. Now, at the start of the game, especially pre-skill ups, Robot was the definitive support. Nowadays, he's still extremely good. One of, if not the best GTA faction heroes in the game for sure. And ridiculously important to build. Do I think he is worth it to put him in S tier? I'm going to say a tentative yes. I might put him at the bottom of S tier because he has lost a teensy-weensy bit of market share, I will not deny, because Red Rush has really found himself in Arena, and Adam Eve really got some love from these skill-ups, whereas Robot doesn't get a massive upgrade from skill-ups. They're good, but not great. It's like Adam Eve is a low floor, but a high ceiling. Robot is a high floor, but a low ceiling. His lows are not nearly as low, but his highs are not nearly as high as Adam Eve. So I'm going to put Robot in a low S tier because he is still the best at what he does, which is healing. And he does occasionally stun the enemy. It doesn't happen often, but hey, a stun's a stun. Next, we have Russ Livingston, Mr. Sequid Man himself. Man's having a bad day, and judging by the end of Season 3, that is not going to change anytime soon. He is interesting. He is a support, but very much an offensive support. His main ability actually scales on his HP and stuns out all enemies that are caught in the wave that he kind of unleashes like a column. That's pretty good because most supports do have lower attack. This kind of circumvents that by scaling off of his HP. Especially if you get him powered up, give him some good gear, maybe a good artifact. Yeah, you can get somewhere with that. His second ability, he attacks all allies and or attacks by allies gain 5% lifesteal when attacking humans. That's not unlike Omni-Man and Battle Beast, or not Battle Beast, just Omni-Man. I think Battle Beast is against Viltrumites, actually, but I could be wrong. I might be mistaken on that one, but I'm forgetting. For sure, Omni-Man, he gets Life Leech against humans like Omni-Man does. However, if you do get his skill up to level 5, he gets an Invader attack boost. And that really wakes the skill up a bit, because Invaders includes, but not limited to, most of the Viltrumites and Anissa, who we're going to talk about in just a second. So, for that reason alone... Oh, how do I want to do this? He also does have built-in confusion, which is a really good ability. I am going to put him in a low A. What he does very well. It's just what he does is also very specific and requires quite a lot of building. Still, though, I think he earns his place in A. Low A, but still an A. Shrinking Ray, unfortunately, does not really have a place in the game, kind of like Bulletproof. I'm gonna put her under the Maulers, gotta be honest. Here's the thing, her skills all look great on paper, but in practice they don't really work out, gotta be honest. She's fine and dandy enough. You can throw her if you need some spare units in a team for GDA ops, but at the end of the day, what she does is okay. The problem is just that there's so many characters that do what she does, but only better. Now, the Immortal. Homeboy got a glow-up post-arena. The Immortal does extremely well. He does one thing, and one thing well, which is never die, which is more you can say about the Immortal in the show. So, take that for how you will. But basically, Homeboy's just hard to kill, and for that, he does get into S tier just because he is fantastic in Arena. I'm going to put him above Red Rush, but below Invincible. Tether Tyrant, that's just fodder, of course. Nothing crazy there. Thula. Thula's an interesting one, because unlike her partner in crime, Lucan, Thula's abilities are actually good. They're mostly focused around just dealing as much damage as humanly possible and inflicting wounds on the enemy. The biggie is that whenever a Viltrumite on her team or the enemy team perishes, she gets a massive attack boost. And that does count for something. So for that reason, we're going to put her... Oh. See, here's the thing. Thula's better than Anissa on a normal day. For sure. Is she better than Omni-Man? That's a question right there. That's a question and a half. I am going to say that she is not better than Omni-Man, but by an extremely slim margin. The only thing that holds her back is that she is required to be on a Viltrumite team, which is hardly a downgrade because, you know, the Viltrumite faction is stacked, minus Lucan. But I'm going to use that as the one thing that puts her below Omni-Man, because Omni-Man can operate on his own like nobody's business. Next is Titan. Titan is a good tank. He's not a great tank. Whereas the Immortal's really good at staying alive. Titan is good at taking hits and doing some debuffs, which does count for something. But there are a noteworthy number of heroes who can do that better, so for that reason, I'm going to put him in high B. I think high B is still pretty good, considering that he does have some nasty competition, but high B I think is where we're going to stick him. Universa, my pride and joy. Very much S tier. She is the definitive best ranged character in the game. Minus Seismic, maybe. Universe is more consistent than Seismic, I'd say. But when Seismic does cook, he cooks very nicely. I'm gonna put Universa. Oh, do I put her above Seismic? See, it's unfortunate because it's like Seismic has higher highs, but Universa is really consistent. I'm going to put Universa above Seismic with the disclaimer that that might be personal preference. I'm not going to deny that. But she does so much damage, and almost every arena team in a high-level arena has a Universa, which speaks for itself. And then to end on a bit of a wet fart, we're going to put War Woman in high C because she just does not do anything. So, yeah, that is the tier list. Like I said, this is very much opinion-based, but I feel pretty strongly that this is decently reflective of the current meta of the game. Lots of high damage up top, you'll kind of notice, but also some supports, especially in the case of Red Rush and Adam Eve. Supports are very important in this game, and they definitely demonstrate that. But let me know what you think down in the comments below. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Either way, let me know down in the comments. Strike up a good discussion. Who knows? Maybe I've missed some potential somewhere. It is entirely possible. And yeah, with that, hope you did enjoy this video, and we shall see you next time. Have a good one.